It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. Welcome to the Dep Lewis Show, episode 41. This is your host, Dep Lewis, and today is Sunday, July 16th, 2023. A regular Sunday episode for you. So welcome to the show. Hope you're glad to be here. I am glad to be here as well. We're going to talk about some video games today, what I've been playing, what I've been seeing, and then we're going to talk about some other miscellaneous things at the end. That is the format of this wonderful Dep Lewis Show, the 41st installment of the show. So thank you for being here. Hope you've been doing good out there. If you'd like to support the show even further than just listening, please follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Like, subscribe, rate, comment, review, turn on notifications, and tell a friend. Email any questions or feedback to DepLewisShow@gmail.com. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Patreon, and more on my Buzzsprout page. Clips of the show on YouTube and TikTok. Those are coming back this week. Took a week off from the clips, so hopefully you'll enjoy those this week. I have, 3 of those for you. And let's see, I have a stream schedule going on now. This has been the 3rd week in a row where I've been streaming every Thursday night around 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Somewhere in that time block, I'm getting on and streaming some games at twitch.tv/DepLewisShow. Twitch.tv/DepLewisShow. I streamed this past week. I played Diablo 4. We'll talk about that a little more in this first section in just a few. But I've been streaming every week, so come check those out on Thursday night. It's a good way to see what's going on with the Dep Lewis Show in the middle of the week before the episode every Sunday. And then the top way to support the show is patreon.com/DepLewisShow. $1 a month for the ground floor tier. It is general support tier for the show. You also get ad-free versions of Dep Lewis Show shows off series. There's 3 installments of that series. And any songs created by Dep Lewis Show, there's a few of those on there. For the first 100 subscribers only, and the price will never change. You will have access to all Dep Lewis Show Patreon content always, so go now and thank you. This is an investment for your entertainment future. And another investment for you is this episode with some information. So you're listening to this episode and you're going to get some great returns. So we're going to talk about how that's going to happen. So let's talk about the show today. In the first section, we're going to talk about what I've been playing. There are 3 games in that section, so that's pretty interesting. In the middle section, we're going to talk about a release. We're going to talk about some legal proceedings that are continuing and some decisions are being made. We're going to talk about a person leaving a company, and then we're going to talk about some classic games and maybe some problems there. And then in the third section, the Miscellaneous Talk section, we're going to talk some comedy. There's 2 specials there I want to talk about. And then we're going to get into the worldwide world of sports, mainly focusing on the Atlanta Braves this week, the best team in the universe, and we're going to see what's going on with them. So welcome to the show, episode 41. Going to be a great episode. All right, so let's get into it. Let's see. Notes from last show. There are no notes, but if you have any, always send them to DepLewisShow@gmail.com for any questions or feedback. So let's get right into what I've been playing this week. So the main thing I've been playing this week has been the case for 2 months now. That's hit the 2-month threshold. This game came out on May 12th, 2023, and that is The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. I'm still at the 45 shrine mark, so I haven't made any shrine progress, but I'm 50 hours in on the game now. I'm still wandering and Morrowinding around the world. I'm trying to get my rupees up. I'm trying to get cool outfits and cool armor. I'm trying to collect towers, and I'm also in the mode of hunting shrines, but not actually completing them yet. So let's think. I have around 3,000 rupees right now, so I'm getting a little bit antsy. I'm wanting to spend some of that. And yeah, I'm looking for shrines mainly right now, looking to try to create travel points, but I'm not necessarily jumping into the shrines. I've also noticed that I haven't spent much time in the depths or the sky portions of this game, and I have some shrines up there and down below that I have traveled to but have not completed yet. So I thought I had caught up on all my travel to shrines that I hadn't completed, but I have not because I am missing the sky and the depths. So I think that's going to be a good place to start. I think I have at least, maybe 2 or 3 between those 2, and then I have that one new one on the flat earth that I found, or actually on the the whatever it's called. Not the plains, but the standard ground. I forget what it's called in that game. But there's the sky, the depths, and normal Hyrule. So I've just been kind of wandering around trying to get my money up. I want to spend some of it possibly on that armor in Kakariko Village, or I'm thinking of completing one of my sets where I have 2 out of the 3. I have the Snow Quill armor, 2 out of the 3 there, and I have 2 out of the 3 in Flame Breakers. The only armor I have a complete set of is the Chic armor, so I'm still doing some things in this game. This game's still been very relaxing. I'm enjoying just playing it randomly, just going in and picking up mushrooms and doing things like that. And let's think, I've been realizing in the combat I use arrows more so than probably actually weapons. So that's a reason I've been running out of arrows a lot, so I'm having to buy those, but I have a decent amount of rupees right now, so I've been able to keep myself pretty stocked, but I'm generally, firing arrows at people to fight them, and I was just kind of noticing that. So I probably need to start focusing a little more on using the weapons, because I can add things to them to make them stronger. I'm just a little bit scared of getting in there close to these guys, because they can smack you and take all your hearts down, so pretty strategic stuff out here in the Zelda world, but it's been very fun. I'm going to keep playing this game. I've been playing handheld some, actually. One of my friends actually just beat the final boss in this game. He has 120 hours on the mark on Switch, and he says he's pretty much done with all he's going to do in the game for now. I don't know how many shrines he ended with, but 120 hour mark, he finally defeated Ganon, so that's pretty crazy. That it takes that long, or that you can put that much time into it, and that he doesn't have all the shrines. I know he has a good portion of them, but I don't think he has. I think there's like 154 of them or something like that, so a pretty insane amount. But this game has been very fun. It is still at the top of the list for Game of the Year for Dep Lewis Show. It was at the top of the list for the mid-year check-in. There's a decent amount of games coming out in the second half of the year that could take it out, but it's a very, very strong contender, and I highly recommend it to you. Alright, so moving on to the next game that I've been playing this week is the game that I streamed on Thursday night, every Thursday night, twitch.tv/DepLewisShow. You can check me playing some games out, and this week I played Diablo 4. I've been playing this game for a couple weeks now. I purchased it and kind of got into it a little bit after, but I streamed this past week. My Barbarian is currently level 17. I checked, I'm almost 9 hours of playtime in on this game, so I've been really enjoying this, and I've been playing it solo. I've been really getting the groove of what's going on and getting the gameplay loop, and getting the gameplay down. I've never really played the Diablo series, so I didn't have too much as a frame of reference for this game. But some games that I can compare it to in my mind, and I'm like, wow, these games are similar or doing some of the same things. And maybe Diablo is, I don't know, but I have a comparison to Vampire Survivors like this. I was really thinking Vampire Survivors was cool. You're walking around the screen, you're killing all the enemies. But Diablo, you're doing the same thing, but it's just on another level of a triple A game that's been created. So I think that's pretty interesting, and something that I really didn't know I would like so much. I loved Vampire Survivors and thought that was all so novel, and it really is, because it's more of a throwback, I guess. But Diablo 4 is a lot like Vampire Survivors if you really think about it. You're just clearing hordes of enemies, going to different rooms, you're getting power-ups, you're leveling up your character, but Diablo has a lot more RPG mechanics where you're spending points into your character, and you're focusing the builds a little bit like you want to, and tackling side quest and normal quest in certain orders, and just exploring. There's more to it as a fully fleshed out game. But there are a lot of similarities in just the base combat. So just something while I was playing this, I'm like, man, this in essence is a little bit Vampire Survivors-y, or vice versa is probably the better way to say that. But that's one comparison. Another comparison, these are all positive comparisons, I would say, too. I think these are compliments. I would compare this game to Skyrim some. The vibe and the setting are a very similar feel to Skyrim, I would say, just with the medieval vibe, and you have your swords, and you got some magic, and you have beasts out in the world and other crazy things you're seeing. I was kind of thinking this game would be more gory and demon-y, or dark than it is, and it's not really. There's demons all over this world, but they're not so horrifying or anything like that. It's more of a really fully fleshed out kind of medieval fantasy kind of world thing, and I'm highly into that. So that was been the biggest surprise in this game for me, that it is a little bit like the Elder Scrolls series, and the just kind of the setting and the vibe, and talking to people and talking to them and seeing what the world's all about. So I think that's a pretty enjoyable thing about this, even though I do probably yearn a little more for a game like The Elder Scrolls over this still, but I'm a new person to Diablo, and I'm kind of getting into it and really enjoying it. So that is definitely the truth. And another game that I could compare this to is Destiny that I'm finding out. So there's different like raid battles in the world that you can walk up on and complete. You can get some pretty good loot and battle with other people. So that reminds me of Destiny a little bit. Definitely the loot system and the character upgrades reminds me of that. And then having a shop with a countdown timer until you get new stuff. I think that's just par for the course with a lot of games these days. But another comparison that's cool, and that's something I didn't expect. I kind of went in with no expectations really for this game, and I'm finding some similarities between some games I really really like, and it's kind of a mismatch of things from those games, and sometimes taking those things to another level. So Diablo 4 has been a very pleasant surprise, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. I've been playing a Whirlwind Barbarian, so I'm in the Barbarian class, and I looked up some builds, and a Whirlwind Barbarian was one of them, so I think that's been working great. You basically use a few boosts, and you want to be able to fill up your fury. You want to hit your boost probably, do some attacks, and get your fury built, and then you want to start whirlwinding around to start killing a bunch of enemies in an area. So I've been following the script on the leveling up according to the internet, but I've also added a ground pound move in my arsenal because I just like it, and I've been leveling that up too, and thinking it's useful, especially when you get bogged down with a bunch of enemies. You can just hit the ground pound, and it can kind of subdue the people around you and give you a leg up on the competition right there for a second. So that has been very useful and very fun. So I'm going to continue building my character that way. And I love all the missions here. I like the side missions have been really fun. I like that you can see them on the map. I like that there's different main quests. I like how big the map seems to be. And Diablo 4 has really been a great surprise and really fun, and I recommend it. And I'll be interested myself to see where it lands on the Dep Lewis Show Game of the Year list. I didn't quite make the mid-year check-in list because I hadn't played. I'd only maybe played 30 minutes of it or something like that. So I didn't really consider it at all for the mid-year check-in, but it's been a very fun game. Alright, the next game that I've been playing that's been more of a recent purchase, that is actually 16 games in one, is Sonic Origins Plus. I bought this, and you can buy this too. You can buy the full game for $39.99. The Sonic Origins Plus package, or if you have Sonic Origins, you can pay $9.99 and upgrade your existing copy to the Plus package. So a couple good options there to get 16 games, not for a full price. I've been making more progress in Sonic 2, I would say. I've been playing as Amy, Rose, and Tails in that. So my tactic for this collection of games has been, if I get stuck or just a little bit frustrated with one of these games, I just switch over to another one and start making progress there. So I started with Sonic 1. Jumped over to Sonic 2, and possibly if I get stuck here, maybe I'll start a file on Sonic 3, but I've been playing as Amy Rose in both of those, and even playing through this, I'm like, man, I want to play some of these levels as Sonic, because I want to just see how he does, and I think that's a good thing about the game, that they have different characters, and it's a good enticing reason to replay it. If you want to be the blue blur, that's another one I can't say, it's hard to say, the blue blur. But Amy Rose has really been holding it down. I've been having a lot of fun with her. The casino level is has a lot of nostalgia for me. I really like that level. When I was playing it, I'm like, man, it's just taking me back to younger days. And the Hilltop Zone has been the coolest so far in Sonic 2 I've seen. I really like that zone and the art style of it. And there are, so I'm at Hilltop Zone in Sonic 2. That's the 5th section, and there are 11 total in that game. So I'm almost halfway on Sonic 2. So that's pretty cool, but this game has been really tough. I was saying that last week, how this game is a little bit tougher than I anticipated. I've been getting a little bit in the groove, and hopefully, upping my skills and getting a little bit better with practice, and I won't get stuck. And then I have 16 different games I can jump between if I do get stuck. So that has been very fun. So I want to start a Sonic 3 playthrough next. Yeah, I'm loving this game and the ability to switch around. Amy Rose is great. I love Tails too. And I might want to be the Blue Blur himself at some point. I've only been playing Amy Rose. It almost doesn't feel right that I haven't played as Sonic at all. So, very, very cool game. Highly recommend that. I'm playing it on Xbox, but I think it could be a cool one to get on Switch as well. It would be a really fun handheld game. And I just like using the Xbox controller, and the D-pad on there is really perfect for this, and trying to be precise with Amy Rose and Sonic and Tails and Knuckles and the rest of the crew. So it's been really, really fun. So go play some of those games. Let me know about them. and I'm going to play some games each week and tell you about them. So that's the whole purpose of this show, and especially in this first section. So that is going to wrap up the first section of the show where we talk about what I've been playing in the past week of the video game. So I've been playing The Legend of Zelda Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I should have to put $1 in a jar or something for getting that wrong. But I'm playing The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I'm really getting into Diablo 4. And I'm still playing some Sonic Origins Plus, trying to make some progress there. So it's likely you can hear me talking about all these games next week as well. But I oftentimes like to switch those things up, so you really never know. So that's why you got to listen every week to the wonderful Dep Lewis Show. But I guess The Legend of Zelda the Tears of the Kingdom has been the most consistent game of the year, and one of the more consistent games over the history of the Dep Lewis Show. I think Splatoon 3 might have been up there for heavy favorites that I've talked about on this show, and The Legend of Zelda is probably number 2 or possibly taking that number 1 spot. And just speaking of Splatoon, the Splatfest is going on this weekend. I forgot to participate in it. It's the ice cream themed one. I believe it's vanilla, strawberry, or mint chip. And I was going to be on the mint chip team, so hopefully that team is going to win. I will report back next to who wins and if there's any other details from the Splatfest. But I just noticed kind of late in the day Friday that the Splatfest was going on, and I've been playing some of these other games, so I just didn't want to jump in. I don't currently have Nintendo Switch Online, so that was one barrier to playing it as well. And I haven't been wanting to play anything else on my Switch besides Zelda since it came out, so I think that's still the case. I think it's going to be the case for a little while. I think tomorrow, or I think it's this upcoming week where Pikmin 4 comes out, and that's something I might want to buy, but I don't know if I will because I don't know if I can boot it up over Zelda, but we will see. You never know. I like buying some games, so we will talk about it on the Dep Lewis Show whenever it happens. So that's going to wrap up the first section of this show. Thank you so much. You're going to hear some lovely break music, and you're going to come back for the mid-section of the show where we talk about what I've been seeing across the video game landscape. So listen to this music, come right back and listen to the mid-section of Dep Lewis Show, episode 41. Welcome back to the best show you'll ever know. This is the mid-section of Dep Lewis Show, episode 41. This is where I tell you about all the cool things happening around the video game industry, things like releases and announcements and news, and all sorts of information about the video game. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is a release. It is a game that came out on July 14th, 2023, and it's called Exoprimal. This is a multiplayer third-person shooter video game developed and published by Capcom, so that's interesting. Capcom's really been doing some great things lately, especially on their, Resident Evil remakes and collections and all sorts of games that they've been putting out. Street Fighter, Capcom's really been on an upward trend, I would say. Capcom, has a long storied history, but I think they've really been pumping out some great things lately. In this game, the player controls an exo fighter, an exosuit-equipped soldier who must complete objectives while fighting hordes of dinosaurs. Yes, you heard that, dinosaurs. That's the main thing people are coming for this game for, it seems like. And with the goal of defeating the sinister artificial intelligence Leviathan. So this game is available on PS5, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox Cloud Gaming, and Microsoft Windows. It is $59.99 to purchase the standard version. It is also available on Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass, you can play this game right now. And even while I was typing that and researching this game, I was like, maybe this will give me a reason to try this game since I do have Game Pass. Just some more information on this game. It is running on the Resident Evil engine. So when I played some Resident Evil 4 recently, I started out just a little bit. You boot it up and it says the RE engine. So pretty cool that they are using this for other games as well. And it's a very strong engine. Some of the better looking graphics, out there right now. So shout out to those guys. And I have watched Nextlander and Jeff Gerstmann play some of this game this week just to see what they think of it, so I could make a decision on what I think about it. And I think they both made some comparisons, or there were a few comparisons made over all the content I saw to Anthem. So that's another multiplayer game with just the character style, and I can kind of see that as well. Anthem's not something I played, but the characters kind of have like armor, like suits of armor almost, but they're like futuristic armor, so it's pretty cool looking. The game definitely looks cool. The dinosaurs look cool. That's a pretty big seller in this game. The first trailer of this game was really, really epic and did have me interested, but I just don't think this will be something I play. I don't necessarily play a lot of multiplayer games, and it looks like that's where the fun can come from here. And there's actually a lot of these kind of games out there these days where it's like you get your friends together and you go fight these, environmental things or hordes of enemies, and there's just different ways of doing it. So you have to, It'd be hard to play all these style of games, but obviously people like them. But you have to probably just latch on to a few of them you might like. So this could be a good example for someone into those style of games to go play this one, because it actually seems pretty good for what it's doing. I'm just not sure it's a game for me. But either way, I wanted to tell you about it because there hasn't been a lot of game releases so far in July. It's been a little bit of a lull, even though there are things coming out. But Exoprimal is something you can go get right now, and maybe I'll give this a try, at least for a little bit, since it's on Game Pass. That is always a good reason to try something out, especially if you have Game Pass already. So Exoprimal, I just wanted to tell you about it. All right, something else we've been talking about for a few weeks has been the Microsoft versus FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, the court battle that is trying to block the acquisition of Activision. The acquisition of Activision. So Microsoft is trying to acquire Activision, and the FTC is trying to block the acquisition. But this week, the court has ruled in favor of Microsoft. So I'd like to say the Dep Lewis Show guessed that correctly. Not that that was very difficult to do, since there were only two options there. But I do think this was some of kind of just shaking the rug out to see what, get some more information here, more so than definitely going to deny it from the start. I think they were definitely just trying to get some insight into the business workings of Microsoft, and it's probably something more strategic than just actually trying to block the sale. Is kind of my thoughts on this. But Judge Jacqueline Scott Corley says Microsoft's acquisition of Activision has been described as the largest in tech history, so it deserves that much scrutiny. Microsoft, let's see, and then the judge also says, for the reasons explained, the court finds the FTC has not shown a likelihood it will prevail on its claim. This particular vertical merger in the specific industry may substantially lessen competition. To the contrary, the record evidence points to more consumer access to Call of Duty and other Activision content. The motion for a preliminary injunction is therefore denied. So Microsoft has committed in writing before this decision was made, and I guess they presented this in front of the judge in writing in public and in court, to keep Call of Duty on the PlayStation for 10 years on parity with Xbox. So I guess that means on the same type of quality as Xbox, was what I was taking from that word parity in there. It made an agreement with Nintendo to bring Call of Duty to Switch. So I was thinking here that's a good example for if there is a beefed up Switch coming next year, a Switch 2, maybe it's a 4K Switch. Maybe that's a great time where they can put Call of Duty like very reliably on Switch, where it can be actually like a good experience. They put Call of Duty, I believe, on the Switch before, or on Wii U at least, but I don't know how great of a version of that game was. And then speaking about other contingencies of this deal, Microsoft entered several agreements for the first time, bringing Activision's content to several cloud gaming services. So those are probably more likely the things that the FTC went into this deal, went into this lawsuit trying to have done at some of these points, instead of letting the deal get done and trying to deny the whole deal. They wanted to get these other like ancillary things done if they could. So those are some things that Microsoft had to concede to or agree to get this deal done. So that was just interesting to me. And let's see what else I found out about this deal. The decision leaves the door open for Microsoft to complete the buyout before the July 18th deadline. I don't know what happens if they pass the deadline, and I don't know if that means we'll definitely hear news before the 18th, but I guess we will. So I can report back to you next week on that, what I think about that. The FTC appealed this decision, this denial, but that appeal was denied. So the FTC has been denied twice. So that is going to be the decision. It seems like Microsoft's going to be allowed. This lawsuit is not going to hold up the acquisition. But the last thing, it seems there are still some hurdles with other regulators, including the UK's Competition Markets Authority, the CMA. So Microsoft's appeal with the UK regulators has been on pause, and I have more to learn here is what my note was. But so apparently there's some other legal hurdles. I don't know if the one they just accomplished was the biggest one, but there's obviously some other ones before getting this deal done. So who knows what else they have to be conceding to do. But I guess if they're going to allow this big dog to become an even bigger dog, they're going to want a little bit off the top, is what this is from some of these other regulators, I guess, or these other people of interest in this deal. They're not letting stuff happen for free out here, so they're having to go through all these proper channels. It doesn't appear like anything is slowing this thing down substantially. It's just Microsoft having to probably do some things they don't want to have to do, or were offering up from the jump to actually get this deal done. But buying Activision is a big deal. They've been trying to downplay their size and their hold on the market, but this is two big companies coming together, or Microsoft one acquiring the other. So it's a very big deal, and just very interesting to keep following. And I will let you know some information next week, probably about that July 18th deadline, and just keep you abreast on what is going on with the Microsoft versus FTC deal and the further implications of this acquisition and what's going on with it. All right, some more news that's Microsoft related. Mr. Larry Erb, aka Major Nelson, has announced he's leaving Microsoft. Erb has been a major face for many of Xbox's marketing activities since the days of the original Xbox and Xbox Live online service. He says, after 20 incredible years, I have decided to take a step back and work on the next chapter of my career. As I take a moment and think about all we have done together, I want to thank the millions of gamers around the world who have included me as a part of their lives. And that was the quote from Mr. Larry Erb. I believe he put that on Twitter. So Erb also said his activities included hosting Microsoft's official Xbox podcast and regularly sharing news from the Xbox team. Even though he's leaving, he says the podcast will be taking a hiatus over the summer and will return in a new format. So that podcast, I do listen to it from time to time. I don't know if it's on a consistent schedule or not. I think that's been one of my complaints with it. And then obviously if it's on a hiatus, those are things I don't like. I hate when like podcasts I like end, or if it's like a group of people and one of them leaves. That's always kind of a bummer. So it's definitely kind of a bummer on this podcast as well. The feed hasn't been populated too much, and then if the main host of it is leaving, that just puts up a big question mark. But hopefully the next people will come in and do well. It's just sometimes hard, me being a fan to stick around after some of those things happen. I've had it happen a whole bunch of times with podcasts, so it's a normal thing. But I definitely have seen the after effects where my interest does go down in them a little bit. But you never know. Maybe the new people will come in and do a great job. So I definitely give him a chance, but a little bit sad there. Definitely a little bit bittersweet with him leaving the company. Not like I work there or anything or has any bearing on me, but he has been a face for the company for a long time. He's been out there on social media, definitely talking to people and giving out free codes every week. And I think he's done a great job. But I think there has been a lot of layoffs recently in companies. So maybe this was you've been here 20 years, Larry. They just want to get somebody fresh in there, start a new regime. Maybe they're rebuilding a little bit. As like a sports analogy. So Larry Erb's going to be finding something else to do, and I am not worried about him. I'm sure he can get a very lucrative job somewhere else, and hopefully he does. But that was some news that happened over the week. And the last thing, that was an article that happened over the week. I guess it was some research or a study or an article that was published that was saying 87% of classic games are endangered. So the Video Game History Foundation's game availability study reveals this percentage. Their study finds that a full 87% of games released in the U.S. before 2010 are no longer commercially available. That's just crazy to think about. And it's something I never did think about until this article came out. And the game industry, they're saying, is not doing a good enough job of preserving access to its own history. So that is one of the basis for the Video Game History Foundation. The Video Game History Foundation is an organization dedicated to that. And I found out about this organization through Kelsey Lewin. She's been on a lot of MinMax content and was always talking about, her role and the workings and what the Video Game History Foundation was doing. So it's funny that, or it's not funny, but just coincidentally, so that this article comes out this week. It's highlighting the foundation, and then Kelsey Lewin also announces on Twitter this week that she's taken time off from the organization. She's not leaving. So that's not exactly like Larry Erb, but she has taken time off from the organization until around October, so don't message her about it. She says she's on a hiatus. And I was, I'm happy to see that now. I'm happy she's not leaving fully, but, it doesn't matter to me either because I don't work there or anything, but you just get used to seeing and hearing about these things. So it's definitely a bigger deal for these people that's actually happening to them. But the Video Game History Foundation is it seems like that's a great purpose and something that's very, very much needed in this time. And they're obviously trying to tell you that. So, they're trying to highlight that that point out there in the industry. So we do see a lot of remasters and collections, but it's crazy to think about a lot of these games aren't available. It's not often that I'm trying to, I have the problem of having too many games to play, so I don't have a problem of, not being able to play stuff I want to. But, there's a large portion of video game history. I'm only so old. I've only been playing games for so long. There's video games before me. There's video gamers before me. So there's plenty of stuff out here that would be cool for people to get their hands on. And it does lead the people down the road of emulations. So, it would be nice to have other options, more on the up and up options for these companies and people to get paid from continuously. But emulation, seems like it is something that is, building and here to stay. It seems like, and a great way to play some of these old things. And oftentimes in a better state than you remember them even, which is nice. So, there's just a lot of things here with these old games. I always used to hear about on Giant Bomb content. They would highlight how there's always licensing issues for these old games, even with things like music, but it could be other things like character likeness and, if there's a celebrity in the game or something. There's a lot of different things that, just releasing it, having this content in the game could open them up, I guess, to some liability. And, a lot of companies aren't trying to do that, and it's probably not worth the hassle is what they've deemed. So it's just kind of it's just kind of the way it is. And, it's just a difficult thing, and there's games being released every day, and, multiplayer servers getting taken down, and, you can't always make everybody happy. That is the definite truth, but just some really interesting stuff. Something to think about. Something about keeping your collections, in good condition is smart. If you have an old console that has batteries in it, take the batteries out, or take the rechargeable battery out if you're not playing it, because it can damage your console. You might want to, pick up some games when they're cheaper, instead of waiting if you're really worried about playing them. So this might just be a good indication to start thinking about yourself and myself as well. And if you really like some games, you need to, this would be something wise to think about. And it's good that's a foundation that's doing it. So go follow the Video Game History Foundation, and follow Kelsey Lewin as well. Just don't message her about the History Foundation until October. So that was the last bit of thing I wanted to talk about in this midsection. So we talked about the release of Exoprimal. We talked about the Microsoft first FTC court ruling. We talked about Larry Erb, aka Major Nelson, leaving Microsoft. We talked about the now popularly known issue that 87% of classic games are endangered. So some news there from the Video Game History Foundation. So that is going to wrap up the midsection of this show of episode 41. You're gonna hear some music, another quick break, and then we're gonna come back for the final section of the show, the Miscellaneous Talk section. We're gonna talk some comedy, and then we're gonna get into the worldwide world of sports. So listen to this music and come right back. We're gonna do some Miscellaneous Talk. Welcome back to the final section of the world-famous podcast, the Dep Lewis Show. This is the Miscellaneous Talk section where we talk about anything I want to talk about outside of video games. So we have some comedy talk for you today and some sports talk in the worldwide world of sports. So let's get right into it. So on the comedy side of things, one of my favorite comedians and podcasters, Mr. Joe List, he has a new comedy special coming to YouTube on August 18th, 2023. His previous special is on YouTube as well and very funny. It's called This Year's Material. And he has a podcast Tuesdays with Stories. It's a great pod with Mark Norman. So I believe he announced this last week. And it's only about a month away. And I'm definitely going to watch that, probably release day or as soon as I can, because I think it'll be hilarious. I love these YouTube specials that are coming out. There's even, there's so many of them these days you can't even watch them all if you wanted to. So that is a good thing. But Joe List is one that it's high up there. Tuesdays with Stories is one of my favorite pods each week, and just want to shout him out. All right, another comedian that I have learned about this week, his name is Greg Warren. He has a new comedy special. I saw him on We Might Be Drunk last week with Mark and Sam. It was a funny episode, and they were, he was on there promoting the special and doing the show. So this is my first time learning about Greg. His new special is on Nateland Entertainment's YouTube channel. It's titled The Salesman. It came out about 2 months ago, so I'm a little behind on finding out about that. And it currently has 629,000 views. It's 57 minutes in length, and I want to watch this at some point, so you should too. So I have that on the list of things to watch and check out when I want to. So Greg Warren has a new special. Go check him out. And then at least go check out his appearance on We Might Be Drunk last week. It was very funny with Mark Norman and Sam Morril. So very cool comedy stuff there. I've been having a lot of good comedy stuff to report recently, and there seems like there's more to come. So very, very interesting. And I also saw a picture of Bert's ass, Bert Krishna's ass on Twitter. It was him and Stavi, and I think it was Santino and Mark Norman, all with their pants down. And then you can see Bert's thing hanging down, and people were zooming in and asking him about that. So very interesting picture. The caption was something about sex sells, so you just need to go check it out if you haven't seen it for yourself. It's on Bert Kreischer's Twitter page, or Instagram probably too, so go check it out. Very silly stuff there. All right, let's get into the worldwide world of sports. Something that that I like to talk about in this miscellaneous talk section a lot. So the official NFL team of the Dep Lewis Show, the Carolina Panthers, all I want to say here is they should extend Brian Burns. They should pay him a big bag of money. He has some new workout videos coming out, so maybe that is the prelude, or maybe the beginning of the rollout. He's going to have some coverage, and then the big deal is going to hit. So we're going to get really amped up for the season. So hopefully it's a little bit of promo for the big deal getting done. I've been talking about this deal getting done on this show pretty much since the show has started, and I really want to see it happen, and it needs to happen. So make it happen, Mr. Tepper. Drop the bag of money off at Burns' doorstep and let him be a Panther for a bunch more years. The only other Panthers headline I really saw this week was Miles Sanders was saying Bryce Young is being mentored by a future Hall of Famer and Andy Dalton. So, a lot of confidence there. People obviously are going to, immediately go to the debate of whether Andy Dalton is a Hall of Famer, because it's, he probably doesn't have, stereotypical Hall of Fame stats. But I think the sentiment here is nice for Miles Sanders, at least, really looking up to his teammate. And Andy Dalton must be, impressing in the locker room, and his presence must be known. So he's having a Hall of Fame presence, it seems like, at least in Carolina. And just a good thing to hear. I guess the vibes are high, and Miles Sanders is a big fan. And hopefully he is mentoring Bryce Young a lot. So that's a really useful tool to have, because it's not like Andy Dalton, the opposite end of calling him a Hall of Famer is calling him a scrub. And he's definitely not a scrub in any way. People are just going to say, he hasn't won a Super Bowl, but, Andy Dalton's been on some successful teams, and, it's not like he's a 50-year-old man. He's still playing out there, and he could potentially be the backup if Bryce Young, gets hurt or something like that. So it is good that, at least Miles Sanders is hyping him up, and hopefully the rest of the organization is. And, just those few people on Twitter going at him at the story was interesting to see. So that was the Carolina Panthers news for this week. And then the official team of the Dep Lewis Show and the official sport of the Dep Lewis Show, Major League Baseball, and that team is the Atlanta Braves. So since last week, did the Braves win Sunday versus the Rays? No, the Braves lost to the Rays last week before the All-Star game, so that was a little bit sad. But hey, you gotta lose. You can't win every game, and the Braves have been doing a great job of winning games, so I'll give them a break there. We had the All-Star break. The Home Run Derby was very, very fun. It's been an epic thing to watch, especially in the last couple of years. I think they've done a great job with the Home Run Derby. Julio Rodriguez had a crazy opening round in front of the home crowd, so that was pretty epic. And then it got down to the end was Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Randy Arozarena, and Vlad Guerrero won. So those are the two players that I wanted to pick between. I was having like a little friendly bet with my friends and, betting some beer. And I was trying to pick between Vlad and Randy, and I ended up picking Vlad, so I was, 100% right on that too. Bragging on myself some more this show, but that was a really cool thing. It was nice to hit a bet, on the head, and I won a bunch of beers, and it was an awesome home run derby to watch. And then the All-Star game happened the next night, and the National League won, which is, I'm a big fan of that. They beat the AL 3-2. I didn't actually watch too much of that game because the All-Star game's, a little bit, I don't know, it's just, I watch 162 baseball games a year or more than that. I watch a ton of baseball, and sometimes I need a break too, Mr. Major League Baseball. So I took a little bit of a break that night and didn't watch too much of the All-Star game, but I was glad to see the National League won. So I had to spend most of last week without baseball, which was really sad, but I'm happy for the players and everyone else involved is my nice spin on it, so I'm glad they all got a break. But baseball came back on Friday, which was which I was very grateful for, and the Braves won very easily on Friday night, against the White Sox in Atlanta, so that was nice. They won 9-0. But then the White Sox came back on Saturday and got a win, so the Braves lost 6-5 on Saturday, but it was a very good game. Came right down to the end. The Braves had a chance with some runners on to go ahead, tie it up, but we just weren't able to get it done. But they were in the mix. It's very fun to see. And then the Braves are actually playing right now while I'm recording this podcast. If you're listening in real time on the July 16th, Sunday, the game started at 1:30, and the Braves are down 6-1 at the end of the fourth against the White Sox. So the White Sox got out to an early start with some runs and put a couple more up. And we only answered with one so far, so it's not looking good so far, but the game's only halfway done, and the Braves need to get a little comeback. So I'll definitely tell you the result of that next week. That was Colby Allard was pitching today for the Braves. He got jumped on pretty early, pretty strong, so not a great outing for him, but the Braves will be working through this, and I think they got some comeback in them, so we'll see. So let's see here. But let me talk about what the Braves. So next week, the Braves have no Monday games, no game tomorrow. And the Braves are at home versus the Diamondbacks Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then next week, they're away at the end of the week against the Brewers, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So let's talk about, I looked up some stats before this game today. So before this game today, before the Sunday game, if you're listening in real time, July 16th, the Braves game against the White Sox. So this is where the stats were before this game. So the Braves were 3 games ahead of the entire league in record, so the whole MLB. Their record is 61-30, so that is 67% win percentage. The top 10 is the Braves, the Rays, the Orioles, the Dodgers, the Rangers, the Marlins, the Blue Jays, the Diamondbacks, the Giants, and the Brewers. Wow, I can't believe the Marlins are really that high up there. That's crazy. Ronnie is batting .323, is the second best in the MLB. Luis Arias from Miami, Yandy Diaz, Bo Bichette, and Freddie are the others in the mix. Shout out Freddie Freeman. Matt Olson is the second most homers with 30 in the MLB. Shohei, Mookie, Pete Alonso, and Luis Robert Jr. are the others in the mix there. Matt Olson and Ozzie are both in the top 5 for RBIs in the MLB. Ronald is top 3 in the league with 122 hits. I love all these stats because they are MLB stats. They are not National League, not American League leaders. These are MLB leaders. Ronnie is the top of the MLB in stolen bases with 43. He's tied with a guy named Ruiz from Oakland. They're the only 2 in the running, really. They both have 43. The next best is Wander Franco from, Tampa with 28. Spencer Strider is tied for first in wins with 11. He's tied with Mr. Gallen, Mr. Taijuan Walker, McClanahan, and Marcus Stroman. Strider is top in strikeouts with 176, and the next person on the list in the MLB is Kevin Gossman from Toronto at 153. So Strider has a good lead there. Kevin Gossman was a former Brave, so shout out to him. He really kind of flourished after we got rid of him. So that was a sad free agency thing to happen. So a lot of cool stats there for the Braves. Definitely wanted to check in those, kind of mid-year and see what was going on. So the Braves are leading in some really high categories, and they have multiple players in some of those categories. They got a lot of people on the hitting side, and some stuff on the pitcher side. So going really well. Hopefully they can come back against the White Sox today. And then next week I'll be able to talk to you about some games against the Diamondbacks, who are good, and then the Brewers, who are good as well. So, a tough week of baseball. Hopefully the Braves will be getting a lot of wins, and we'll be able to talk about them on the next episode of the Dep Lewis Show. So that is going to wrap up the Miscellaneous Talk section of the show today. We talked about some comedy. Joe List has a special coming to YouTube August 18th, 2023. Greg Warren has a special on YouTube right now called The Salesman. It came out 2 months ago. Go watch that and go check it out. I haven't actually watched that one yet, but I want to. We talked about the Panthers. I'm extending Brian Burns. They need to do that right now. That is what I've been saying every week. The Panthers need to extend and pay Brian Burns a big bag of money. And I'm just going to keep saying it until it happens. And we talked about the best team in the universe, the Atlanta Braves, and what they've been doing since the All-Star break. And they're back playing the White Sox this week. And we talked about who they're going to play next week. So I love you, Braves. You're the best team in the universe. Keep balling. And, a loss here or there is going to be okay, because the Braves are going to be winning that World Series at the end of the year. That's what I want to say. All right, so that is going to wrap up another episode of the Dep Lewis Show. I want to thank you so much for listening. I want to wish upon you a wonderful week until we talk again. Hope you get to do a lot of things that you want to do in your life. Hope you have some good days at work. Hope you have some fun after work. Hope you get to have some fun. Hope you get to play some games. Hope you get to buy some games. I hope that you find $100 on the street. that was dropped, from a millionaire that doesn't need it. And that would be awesome. But, I just hope you have a great week. If you'd like to support the show even further, just want to reiterate these things. Follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Like, subscribe, rate, comment, review, turn on notifications, and tell a friend. Email any questions or feedback to DepLewisShow@gmail.com. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Patreon, and more on my Buzzsprout page. Clips of the show are on YouTube and TikTok. I'm streaming on twitch.tv/DepLewisShow every week, every Thursday, around 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern is the time block. Last week I streamed Diablo 4, so check those out, twitch.tv/DepLewisShow. And if you want to follow the show in the greatest way you could ever know, go to patreon.com/DepLewisShow. That is the $1 a month for the ground floor tier. It is a general support tier for the show. Also get ad-free versions of Dep Lewis Show's off-series. There's 3 installments in that currently, and songs created by the Dep Lewis Show. There's actually some of those on there too. For the first 100 subscribers only, and the price will never change. You will have access to all Dep Lewis Show Patreon content always. Go now, thank you, and an investment for your entertainment future. Patreon.com/DepLewisShow. And just thank you so much for listening to the show every week. I have fun getting together all my video game thoughts and miscellaneous thoughts and bringing them to you. So I hope you enjoy listening to them, and I hope you come back next week for episode 42, because that is where I will be. So thank you again for listening, and I will see you next time.